Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be about having the talk, which I know is a very scary subject for most people, definitely for me as well. So let's just get right into it. For me, I had the talk when I was in late middle school, like 8th grade or going into high school. I didn't have a boyfriend or anything like that. I think my parents were just concerned, like, hey, she's getting into high school, she can drive her own car now, we have no idea where she is all the time. Because before, they had to drive me everywhere, so they had at least a better idea, but when in high school, I could drive, so a little less control that way. And I am realizing I don't like this foundation. Because it's not a foundation. It's a tinted moisturizer. Dumb. It's not dumb. I use it sometimes when I don't feel like putting full face on. Like I was saying, so when I had the talk, I was very nervous to have it. And I don't know if my parents actually ever said, like, hey, we're going to have a talk. This is what's going to happen. Blah, 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 blah. I remember when I was younger, your parents always tell you, like, oh, you'll learn about that when you're older, or we'll tell you when you're older. So maybe that was the sex talk that they were talking about. I'm not sure. Obviously you learn about it in school. I had like a biology sex ed class, I think when I was a sophomore in high school. And so there obviously we learned about sex and we learned about protection and we learned about the birthing process. I believe we actually watched a video on somebody giving birth. And so I think that was their own form of birth control. So when my parents did ever mention, sex, or I think they even asked me, like, hey, what do you know about it? Or do you have any questions or something like that? I think I remember telling them, like, yeah, I think I know what it is, or I probably was even too nervous. And I think it's just a hard topic to talk about in general, just because the people that are going to have that discussion with you aren't involved in your sex life. And what also makes it awkward is if the person that's having the talk with you isn't comfortable with it either, and they don't really know what to say, or they might have an idea of what to say, but they don't know how you're going to react, and maybe you say something or ask a question that catches them off guard, or you say something that reveals that you know more than they think you know. Like I said before, I don't think my parents knew that I knew anything about sex. Like, I have no idea where they thought my level of knowledge was, but I definitely think I knew more than they thought I did. And so I think that's also why I kind of backed off. I was like, yep, I know that. Yep. The school already went over it. I already know all that stuff. And I think we kind of just ended it there. And it's not like my parents just had one sex talk with me. They had different sex talks with me, I think, gradually as I got older. Because I think the likelihood of you having sex goes up the older you get. And so, obviously, middle school is a different conversation. I think it was more like, hey, you're on your period, do you know how that works? And we did that video, and I know kind of how it works still and whatever. But I think the further it got into the discussion, the more it actually got into sex and being like, are you prepared to have it? Do you have any questions about it? Does it scare you? Do you know how to be safe and things like that? I got my first boyfriend and only boyfriend in my sophomore year, so I was 15, and I know after that point my parents really amped up the sex talk and started asking me questions like, are you pregnant? Or are you guys being safe? Are you guys having sex? Okay, I don't know if this concealer is working. It's just like a stick from e.l.f. and I don't use it too much just because I feel like stick concealers, especially that one, they just like don't blend well, but we'll see. I was always still so anxious about it and nervous answering their questions because I'm like, no, we weren't having sex right away. And I am going to make another video about having sex for the first time and losing your virginity and everything like that, but that's for another time. So when we did first start having sex, and I think my parents maybe caught on or just knew, obviously they're my parents. They've been through their teenage years before too, and they know what happens. And I think even my parents said that. But now, as I'm older, it's like, gosh, I'm glad I had parents that were supportive like that and wanted to know and didn't just have one talk with me and hope I figured it out. And it's unfortunate if some people don't have parents or don't have somebody in their life that will have that discussion with them, because it's one that definitely needs to be had. And that's kind of why I have this channel too, is because if you are watching this and you're younger and you don't know about this kind of stuff, and some people may say like you're too young for it or, you know, whatever. I don't think somebody is ever too young to start learning about sex because that's how it's safer. That's how you protect your body. I think that's how you get a better understanding of what you're like, what you're comfortable with, and how are you going to know how to handle sex in the future when it comes if you don't even know what it's about and what to do. So I think it's definitely important for people to know about sex and have that talk with whoever it is in their life. It's also kind of a tricky topic to talk about with your friends too, because they may not know all the correct answers either. I know a big misconception when I was younger, and probably still is one if you're younger and don't understand contraceptives, is that 2 condoms is better than 1 because you got double the protection. But actually it's worse. It causes friction, can make a hole. So don't do that. Just use 1. It can be helpful talking to your friends, like I said, but also talking to an adult or obviously somebody that has been through this stuff before. So or somebody that you trust that's older, just talk to them. I mean, there's so many websites now too, online, trustworthy ones that can definitely give you the information you need. But I remember like hearing stories about like other kids having sex, and that was maybe even in 7th or 8th grade. And I felt that was way too young. I'm like, well, I don't want to be one of those kids that has sex that young, and plus I'm like, I still have braces and I'm not comfortable with my body yet, and I'm not dating anybody, I'm not with anybody that I would feel comfortable doing that with. So by the time I did have sex, I did feel prepared because of those sex talks my parents gave me, and because the school that I went to for high school did have that class, and I felt comfortable enough to have sex for the first time because I had been talking about it or listening about it for the longest time too. And like I said before too, I don't think that it's ever too early to start talking about sex. I feel like the questions you have when you're younger about sex aren't too much about the actual sex part. It's about how your body works. And I remember being younger and wanting to know, you know, how does this pertain to me? How does my body work? Why am I getting my period? Things like that. So I think it's definitely important to have that discussion younger. And so again, if you are younger and you're wondering about that, keep watching this channel because hopefully we'll go over every one of those topics and every one of your questions will be answered by at least my experiences. So hopefully that'll help. And I'm in my early 20s, so I've been through the whole sex crazed high school years and then into the college years and the different pressures that each one of those ages gives you. So I feel like the knowledge I have to share isn't complete, obviously, but I've been through those years and through the struggle of trying to figure out kind of your path and how sex kind of works into your life. And my views on having a sex talk kind of align with my parents. I don't think it should start at one certain age and be done. Even now, my parents still kind of have a sex talk with me. It's obviously not what it used to be. And because I'm getting married now, it's more like, when are you having kids? And how soon will that be? And yada, yada, yada. I don't feel too nervous about having that talk with my kids once I have children because I love talking about sex and it's my favorite thing to talk about. So I'm hoping that they're comfortable with me enough to share those kind of topics with me and not be afraid to approach me about, you know, whatever. So I feel like when somebody has a talk with you, or if you're going to have a talk with somebody, keep an open mind and, you know, respect their opinions and their views on it. And there's definitely a lot of different opinions out there about sex and how it should be handled and what age you should have it at and all that fun stuff. I feel like adding a little bit of pink here to this look. Well, let's see if this works. Don't know where we're going to add it yet. Maybe right in here. Is that a thing? Can I add it there? Should I put it all over the lid? I don't know. And if you are about to go into that period of life, just know that you are not alone in thinking that it is scary, thinking that your questions are weird ones, because they're not. Every question is a good one. There is no stupid questions when it comes to sex, but just know that there are people out there to help you. I mean, do whatever is necessary basically to be informed. Sex is definitely a big deal. And I think sometimes people make too big of a deal out of it, how important it is to have it when you're younger, because I think there's going to be a lot of pressure, you know, at that certain period in your life where You're going to have people telling you that sex is the best thing, you need to have it now and whatever, but do it when it's right for you. Don't do it because everybody else is telling you to, or telling you that now is the time to do it, or whoever you're with is telling you. Don't do it if you're not comfortable with it. So like I said, ask questions, because that is the only way you're going to know if you truly are comfortable enough to have sex for the first time. So hopefully today's video kind of served as a sex talk in a way, and hopefully my whole channel is kind of a sex talk. I hope you learned from today's video that talking about sex and having the talk is important and it is necessary. Like I said before, don't be afraid to ask questions, because that is so important. It's so important to be in the know and have the knowledge that you need to feel comfortable talking about sex and having safe sex. So when it comes down to actually having a talk, whether you're about to have one or you're going to give it to somebody, they're so important. Again, be open-minded. Just have a discussion, have a conversation with the other person, and don't be afraid. So thanks for watching today's video. I'll see you in the next one when we talk about another fun sex topic.